All right, so yeah, and I said also. Good morning, everybody. Kufyu Dalet. So we left off yesterday discussing. We got to a case we mentioned earlier about katanim, maybe a case of a katan, maybe it's a case of a katan ochel nevelos, and what is our thoughts, our actions towards a child who's not commanded in mitzvahs, he's not punishable age. In other words, is he katan ochel nevelos? What is there to prevent? So the Gemara actually discusses this further. Rav Yitzchak bar Bisna, he couldn't find the keys to the base medrash he lost them Rishus Harabim, the Shabbasa and Shabbos, and they need to go find them and to bring them back, but they couldn't carry on Shabbos. So that's the Rebbe Das. It came from Rebbe Das. Amar Lei. So here's Rebbe Das's Eitzah, and we're going to be discussing this. Amar Lei, Zil, Davar Talei Vitalia Ulatayil Hasa. Go ahead and take some boys and girls, some kids, right? Kids, boys and girls, bring them there. See, boys and girls, they play together, right? Boys and girls, bring them there, Hasam. And they're going to play in that area. This is a rabbim. If they find the keys, they'll bring them in, right? These, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, whatever they are, they go ahead, they'll play over there, and all of a sudden, you see a key, they're going to bring it in. Alma, what do you see here? Ksaver, katan, eichel, nevelos. Ein, bezdin, mitzuyin, lafrisha. What do you see over here? So this is Rav Padas's sheet that we're soon going to ask and try and bring proofs. A katan who was eating the velas, Beis Din does not have to go ahead and stop them, right? Same way over there, you don't have to stop them from carrying the keys, right? Which is a rabbim. So to over here, the katan, right, the chayyim, a proof of katan who's eating the velas, something which is not kosher. Beis Din is not matsuya lafrisha. So leim l'sai, let's say this is a proof. Lo yomer adam latino kavelim avteach. Right, right. So let's say this is a proof, right? So if a person shouldn't say to a child, "Go ahead and bring me something," bring my shlichas, bring me the key, or bring me the chayse, right? Do that, be violate Shabbos. But you can leave him if he's around the plant, right? He's allowed to, if he's uprooting the plant, and that's good for you, right? You can leave him there, and you don't have to stop him or zarik, or you can throw it. Some by you, no, maybe it's not a proof. Talesh va'atzitz. Shein Anakov over there, right? To uproot something, maybe we're talking about a flower pot. There was no hole. It was not attached to the ground. Therefore, it's only derabanan, and therefore Zarek becomes derabanan. Also, the case of throwing was not a Rishus Harabim. It was only in a place of a carmelis, which is not a violation of Issa Deraisa, and therefore it's only a derabanan. So, in other words, maybe that's not a proof. Maybe over here is the only time with derabanans, then you don't stop. Maybe deraisa you could. So Abaye deflected. So Tashma, come on, listen. So fire in a Jew's house.
Except that before we brought down Ochel Nevelos, that's a deraisa.
But that's the point.
Right.
Yeah. So the point was.
So it's not just the fact that they were in a carmelis.
No. That was the shita. We want to bring this as a proof. So no, there's not a proof. That which they permitted in these cases was because there's only a derabanan. So it's not a proof. That was the point. The point was we were trying to think it was deraisa. We said no, it's derabanan. We deflected the proof, which we're soon going to see. Now let's go back to deraisa. Let's see. Tashma if an Avik Chavin comes to extinguish a fire on Shabbos, let's say in the house of a Jew, you can't tell him put it out or don't put it out. We pray. You don't have to go ahead and put it out because you're there resting on Shabbos is not upon you, right? However, but if a child comes to go ahead and extinguish a fire, we tell him, you tell him, don't go ahead and put out the fire because, right, you can't tell him to, right? So you tell him, don't put out the fire because you're commanded in his shvisa. You're commanded in his resting on Shabbos because he's a child. So what do you see over here, right? That right, you tell him you can't do it. In other words, you are commanded for deraisas. So Rabbi Yechon, no, das aviv, right? No, we're talking about a case of where he's putting it out for his father. If he's putting it out for his father, then you tell him you can't do this for your father, right? The kid doesn't care, but he's putting up for his father. Dad wants me to do it. The kvass is similar. They said das Yisrael, well, what do you mean? If he goes out and does something on behalf of a Jew on Shabbos, is that butter? So Gemara says no. No, he's doing it for himself. He wants to put the fire so there's no fire in the neighborhood. But the child is doing it for his father, therefore that would be forbidden. So Tashba, come listen. Ben Chavish Avi Imai. A child of a chaver, a child of a person who normally eats his food, but tahara. So he goes to his grandfather, right, his mother's father, Amaretz, who is not as careful with Tumah and Tahara when it comes to food, right? In terms of the Tumah Tahara, also in terms of being Mafresh Tumah, or Mafresh Meiser, and Meiser Sheni. Right? We're not chayshish, we're not concerned. In other words, you don't have to stop the kid from going to grandpa's house because he's not going to eat things that are not masukim. However, matzah biyad peiros, if let's say he comes back from grandpa's house and he has fruits in his hand, ein zakuk lo. So in that case, you don't have to go ahead and take trumas and ma'asos. So in other words, we basically say whatever, it's fine. So what do you see over here? Grandpa is on Amaretz, so why didn't you have to go ahead and take truma or something from Amaretz, right? So we see over here that you don't have to do it. We're not commanded. So no, it says Rabbi Yochanan b'tamai hakilu. It's only derabanan, right? When it comes to a person who's Amaretz, it's only derabanan. Since it's only derabanan, therefore you're not commanded to go ahead and take trumas and ma'asos again. El tamid demai ha vadai. But if we knew vadai it was something that no good, you have to take meiser. So Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan says the only time you're commanded by a child if he's doing it for the father, but if he's doing it for himself, even if it's vadai, ain't a masukon, you wouldn't have to go ahead and take trumas and ma'asos. So Ella Rabbi Yochanan smukim esvakile. Rather Rabbi Yochanan was masupik, right? Hacha matchile, kai v'hacha matchi. Right? So kai hacha matchi, kai hacha matchi. You know, each case he was deflecting. In one case, you seem to have to stop the kid. No, we had to stop the kid because he was doing it on behalf of the father. The other case, you weren't stopping the kid. It's because it was drabanan. But he was a suffix as to whether one is obligated to stop him in a case of when he's doing it for himself in a deraisa. So Tashba, come and listen. Ben Chaver Kohen Sharagilech Eitzel Avi Imo Kohen Amaretz. If you have the child, right, of a Kohen, they truma, and he goes by grandpa, who's also a Kohen, but he's an Amaretz. We're not concerned that he's going to go ahead and eat truma tmeya. He's allowed to go to grandpa's to play. Yeah. So matzah and biyado peiros, and also if he returns back from grandpa's house, and zakik loy, which right. You don't have to go ahead and take away from him. So you see that even something deraisa, you don't. If he's doing it for himself, you don't have to stop him. So Gemara once says, "But truma derabanan." We're talking about truma derabanan. It's not a proof on deraisas. It's only derabanan, and that's why you don't have to stop the kid from eating, grandpa's salad. So Tashma, come and listen. Yainek tinaik v'haylech v'skachavim u'beheva tmeya. One is allowed to go ahead and have a child nurse from an avodas kachavim,
Jewish kid,
right? A Jewish kid from a non-Jewish, right? Umeheva tmeya, and also from a non-kosher animal, right? Ve'ein chaysh, right? In other words, one is allowed to go ahead and do that, right? Ve'ein chayshin b'yonek sheketz, right? And we're not worried that this is basically considered to be like nursing from something which is, an isser. V'layachelenu nevelos v'treifos, right? V'shkatzev ramashim, right? You can't go ahead, but feed them actively nevelos and treifos and in these other things. Umikulan yonek mehan, and from all these we mentioned before, one can go ahead and nurse v'afilu b'Shabbos uvegadol. Actually, feel b'Shabbos, and all these others, a child can go ahead and nurse even on Shabbos. Uvegadol aser. However, gadol it's aser. Now, b'shalaymer nohagim haynu sheyonakim behema tayra b'yantif. We were knowing even that even though to go ahead and extract to be mefarik, right, as we'll soon see, right. Nevertheless, we allow a child to go ahead and nurse from a kosher animal on yantif. Right,
a gadol is
a gadol is a toddler. Right. Like the Yemenite children. The Yemenite children used to nurse till like how old do they nurse until? I hear about this. I once heard from Shoshana. Yeah, they're like 2 or 3 years old. They'd still be nursing. Yeah.
No foot around. What do you
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? They're poor, so they would nurse like ages of 2 or 3.
think that they bite your heart.
Yeah. So Katani Miha, never it says, Ein Chayshin B'Yonek, right? Shekat. So now we're not concerned about the baby, right, doing something wrong. So obviously the baby's doing nursing for itself, right? And nevertheless, you don't stop even the Raisa. So it says no, Hasa Mishum Sakana. Over there's Sakana. The baby needs to eat. Even that, a larger baby, a toddler, right? Also, so God boy umduna, right? When it comes to a toddler, then you have to umduna. Is he in sakana or not? Does he really need to nurse from this non-kosher animal or not? So what about a katan? Maybe you should also go ahead and evaluate. So Ravuna, a stam tinok, right? A stam tinok needs is you don't have to go ahead and evaluate whether a small baby requires milk to nurse. Of course it does. Therefore, that doesn't require umdana. Only a larger, a toddler would require.
Once a child starts eating regular food,
right? So that was the umdana, I guess. Right. So
right.
So that right.
Then it's not like the child needs.
Exactly. Right. So Abishal, right? So Abishal, So Abishal says, no, we can even allow the child to nurse or to extract milk from a behemoth tyra from a kosher animal on Yantav. Say, what's the case there? If it's a sakana, it should be allowed to do on Shabbos. And eat like a sakana, there's no sakana. If be Yantav, also it should be also on Yantav. So it says, no, it is painful. In other words, it's painful. It's not exact for the baby. The child basically needs to eat. It's not sakana for the baby, but it needs to. And we know that mefar to extract the milk is klacher yad, right? It's only done. It's not the normal way, right? And therefore, it's basically it's like a shinui, right? So Shabbos is skila. In the case of Shabbos, where there's an isra skila to violate, because Rabbanan are guys there not to go ahead and have this child who's bitzar to go ahead and nurse from the animal. However, Yantif, disr, right? Disr lav. It's only disr lav. It's not skila. Therefore, the Rabbanan were not geyser. Fine. Tashma. Now we're going to have 3 cases like this. Then we're going to explain 3 cases. So it says over there, do not go ahead. Extra verbiage over there, right? Because there's shkatzim. So over there, we're talking about the pasuk over there. Where was this pasuk? I guess talking about shkatzim ramashim, right? So it says over there, to command, right, adults to make sure that katanim don't eat these shkatzim and ramashim and these creepy crawlers. So my lab, right? Is it not talking about a case that we see the Torah commands you to stop the kids from violating the raisas? Lo, delay. No, it means over there that it's just telling you that in this case that you should not go ahead and basically allow them to make them do it. Right? You should not force them to do it, but if they come to do it, they do it. You don't have to stop them. So Tashmak and listen, all nefesh amongst you should not go ahead and consume blood. So by lav, isn't how we see that if one sees a child about to eat blood, one has to stop the head and eat that child. So the answer is low. The low least will be a dime. No, it just means that you should not go ahead and basically, you should not give them. Right, give them blood to eat, but if they eat on their own, then maybe you don't have to stop. And Tashmak, listen, it says Emor, that says Amarta, and that says Amarta Leim. So it says double Ashur Emor by Kohanim, by Tuma. It says Lahazik to command, right, the adults to make sure the Katanim, right, do not become tummy. So my lab Damar Lu Lois Damu is not talking about a case where they see they're about to go into a graveyard to become tummy, and therefore the Torah commands you got to stop them from doing Yisud Raisa. Lo. No, it just means that you can't make them tameh actively, but if they do it on their own, then they do it. So there's no proof.
But if a child runs,
you don't have to.
Only a child is playing and runs into a cemetery.
Right. So the Torah is not talking about that case, right? The Torah is not talking about that case that you can't tell them to go into the cemetery to retrieve the ball. And we need all these cases, 3 cases of shratzim, the case of blood, and the case of Kohanim to become tummy. Why do you need all three cases? Diash v'nishkatzim, huh? Eating shratzim, eating a sheretz, and blood. Those three cases. So those three cases we saw psukim that commanded adults that they're not allowed to command the kids to violate. But if the kids are violating on their own, then it doesn't mention what you have to do. All right, just you can't command them. So now it's tricky. We know it's the psukim. If it was just the pasuk of shkatzim, turn the page. Mishum di isuran b'mashu, because maybe a sheretz, their isur doesn't have a shear. It's even b'mashu of adam. Down to Ika Ravis, but blood when it comes to Ravis, aim alone. Maybe I would say that you can go ahead and even feed a child blood, aim alone. So therefore, we have the pasuk. Yes, if we just had blood, mishum dika kares, because that over there has a kares. About shratzim, but shratzim they don't. Aim alone. Maybe I would say that adults are not commanded to go ahead and make, and they can't, feed them shratzim. We have these two cases, mishum disur and shava, because those isur apply to everybody, all Jews. About tuba, when it comes to don't become tamei. Aim alone, it only applies to Kohanim. Maybe I would say that they can go ahead and send their kids to become tummy. Therefore, stated, if this is the case of Tuma, Kohanim, Shanik, make Kohanim different, Mishum, Deriva, Mitzvahs, Iseras, right? Because they have extra mitzvahs. Aval Hani, but all the other two cases, Isurim of blood and Shkatzim, maybe aim alone. Maybe since it's upon Jews, maybe they can even actively feed a child. Therefore, it's Stricha. Therefore, we have all three cases. Fine. Now we're going to bring it back to what we've been discussing. Why are you talking about Ketana? So let's see this case. We had this one case, and we're going to bring it both ways. Tashma, come on, listen. Shnei Achin, two brothers. Echad bikech ve'echad cheresh. One was a bikech. One was 100%, and one was a deaf mute. Nesuin shtei achayos, and was married to two sisters bikachos, right? Who were normal. So basically, it was one brother who was a deaf mute, and they both married, and they both married regular women. Normal women. So meis cheresh bal bikachas. So if the one who only had a derabanan marriage, so ma'yes bikach bal bikachas. So the other marriage who was bona fide, what happens with them? Nothing. They say the woman who's became widowed, right? Her sister is married to her yavam, and therefore fully married to her yavam, and therefore she's pater from Yibur Chalitza b'mishum achas isha. However, if the one that had a bona fide marriage died and now she falls to the deaf mute, so ma'yaseh cheresh bal bikachas. What does he do? He has to divorce his derabanan wife. And then the other one is Asli Yolam. So the Gemara says, why this is the Rabbanan marriage, right? The Cheresh is similar to a child, not committed to mitzvahs. Why don't we just say he's a case of Katan Eichan Avelos? Just like we don't have to stop a child, so too we don't have to stop this Cheresh from remaining married to his wife. So the answer is no, Mishum Disur Dida. Yeah, okay, you calculated for her. For him, right? Because he's a cheresh, but his wife, that's what we're concerned about. So since she's commanded, so therefore she can't stay with him. So Toshba, come and listen, right? So opposite case, two normal brothers, Nesu and Shtei Achayos, who married two sisters, Achas because Achas chereshes. One is married two women. One was normal, the other one was a deaf mute. So if the one who had a derabanan marriage died, what does the one with the normal marriage do? So obviously nothing, because the one who fell derabanan is completely pater from Yibur Chalitza. But the one who had the bona fide marriage, the deraisa marriage, died. So what does the other brother do who was married to a deaf mute? He has to go ahead and divorce his wife, and he has to go ahead and do chalitza to his brother, right, to the woman who fell, right, the one who fell him. Why does he have to divorce her? Why don't he just remain with her, right? So it's a case of he's only derabanan, therefore it's like a case of derabanan where they're not obligated. So my answer is Mishum di Isura di Day, because his Isra, right? So that's only by her, but by him, since he's commanded the mitzvahs, he cannot remain in that marriage. And Amar Rava, what about this case? You got one set of brothers and a set of sisters. So in each one, there's a deaf mute. right? So the deaf mute mirrors the deaf mute, and the normal one mirrors the normal one. So meis cheresh b'chereshes, if the ones that do deaf mutes, if the husband of the deaf mutes die, and therefore their marriage derban is over. So ma yasef yachas. So what happens with when she falls to even to the normal brother? So taste of shemachas isha, right? Obviously, she's part of the isha. Now, if the one who had the Raisa marriage, he died, now she falls to her brother-in-law, who is a deaf mute, but who was married to her sister only to Rabbanan.
Yeah.
So they both are. So what is the deaf mute? Was married to deaf mute do? He divorces his wife with a get. And he can't do Yibur Mechlitza, and therefore she's also the Yelam. The lavi sur didaika, the lavi sur didaika, the lavi sur didaika, right? Over here, till now, we've been saying, okay, you got divorced because the other is chayv mitzvahs. But over here, neither the cheresh or the chereshes are obligated in mitzvahs. So why does he have to divorce her? Victani might say, isha begat. Why? And he has to give her a get. So why is that? Let them just stay. It's their abundance. Who cares? If people see that they stay together, people might think that other people fall into a Rabbanan marriage are completely part of Yibum B'chalitza. Therefore, since we want to go ahead and show that there is Zika D'Rabbanan, therefore we tell them to go ahead and divorce, and therefore it's not a kasher or a proof either way. So Hajar Lach, Cheresh. Now, now we start the 15th. I think it should be the last. No, more prakim. Yeah, no, it's more prakim. Aisha. So now it's showing the Mishnah like that. Haisha shahalka he ubalan nisiyam. Right, very interesting Mishnah. So it says over there, a man and a woman they go after Medina Siyam, and shalom bein olavena ushalom b'elam. Right, there is peace. Right, they're a nice couple. They're not fighting, and also they're not going to a war zone. Oba, and she returns. Yamra meis bali. My husband died. Do not say we believe her. She can go ahead and get married, right? Because they weren't fighting before, and they weren't going to a place of war. Right? We'll soon see why that makes a difference. Meis Bali, or she says my husband died and they have no kids. We tell her to do Yibum. Now, Shalom Beino Leveina. If there's, let's say, they have a good relationship, however, but they go to a war zone, right? They go to Ukraine. Or or they're always fighting. And then they go travel to a nice peaceful place. And she returns. My husband dies. And in that menace, she's not believed, right? Either she says, my husband died, I want to be married because she hates her husband. Or if it's in a war, she'll maybe assume that since they went to a dangerous place, that he's dead without actually seeing him dead, even though she had a good relationship with him, right? So war is because she might assume something which she doesn't know for a fact. And the other reason is because she hates her husband, she wants out, and the easiest way is just say he died. Rabbi Yehuda says, even in the case of all this peace, and they have a good relationship, the Elohim and the menace, Elohim came, she comes back crying, her clothing is torn, right, from mourning, and then we have proof that she was mourning. So then they say, no, either way, she can go ahead and marry you, you don't need all the torning, they're tearing, we'll see in the Gemara. So Zak the Gemara, Satana, Shalom bein Levena, the peace between the two of them. We list that place because later on we're going to list what there's fighting between the two of them. And Tana Shalom be'elam, and also it says the place of when there's peace in the world, because we also want to contrast it with when there's war in the world. Now, Amar Rava, my time of the Milchama. What's the reason for Milchama? Mishum Damra with Mami, right? Because she'll say it's daima to me. It appears to me. In other words, she'll assume that it was a dangerous place. He probably got killed. Sagadai said, "B'chol hani dikto hu palit." Right? She's going to say, "Well, all these others are dying, and he's going to survive." Doesn't make sense. Even the shalom bein alaveina, naji dechazu. Right? Even if you want to say that, well, maybe she loved her husband, so maybe she would, hope she would, remain out and hope that he would return in peace. Sometimes maybe a spear, or a sword, or a spear, whatever, bullets, right? The sabra, and she'll think, Vaday Meis, right? He for sure died. I saw he got hit with a bullet. Those who can do bandages or heal it up and survive. So she might have thought, even if he got hit with a bullet, she said, I saw him get shot. He probably bled out, but she doesn't know, right? So she's assuming it, even though she loved him. That's why we don't believe Shas Macham. The Sabbath Rava thought that maybe a famine is not like a Machama, Delay Amra, right? Because maybe a woman say, oh, he probably, he probably died in a famine. However, Hadam Rava, then Rava was chayser. He says, no, Ravon, a famine, harehu k'milchama. It's just like a war. In a war, she would assume he died, right? Perhaps, or just even a little bit of knowledge. She'll do with a famine, right? What's the case here? One time there was a woman came for Rava. Sa'amra lay, she said to Rava, Bali Mace, my husband died for Rava in the famine. So Amar lo, Shapir Vata, she's Vata, Nashe. It's good that you saved yourself and you left, right? Salka the Isaac, the whole person, the Nafavis, the Shapka le, Havi Chaya, right? You think there was such little food around, right? Such little, you could have died also. So Amar le, she said to them, yeah. Marnami Yodin, right? So she said, yeah. Because you see, right, even he had such, little stuff, there was no way he could have survived. So she basically admitted she didn't see him die. She didn't say Maze Bali. She just said he had little to no flour, but she didn't know he died. So therefore, Rava was proven to the fact that he was crazy, that it was wise for her to say, because just because someone's in a dangerous situation doesn't mean she can go ahead and remarry. And Amar Rava, and Rava says, now furthermore, Rava agree on the milchama. It's even worse than milchama. Why? Milchama, ki Amar Maze Bali, right? In a case of war, she says, my husband died, then she's not believe. But she says, we were in a war zone and he died of cancer, right? So then she's believed. But when it comes to famine, right? Until she says, he died and I buried him. That's the only way we'll believe in the case of famine. What about a collapse of a building? Right? It's just like a war. Right? She'll say, in a case of a building fell, she'll say, oh, there's no way he could have survived. Right? So therefore we say, no, that's not good enough. Shiluch nechashim akravim, or the sending of snakes and scorpions is some sort of, what is going on. They've taken over the neighborhood. Harehing to Muhammad, like a Muhammad, right? She'll say that, it appears to me that he died. And Dever, when it comes to a plague, it's like a Muhammad. Some say, some say a plague is not like a Muhammad. Why? Those who say that's right, because it appears that he died. People die in a plague, so he died like COVID. And others say no, it's not a Muhammad. The Samchi, people write the Marian, like people say, Shev Shanim Havi Musna V'inish B'loy Shani Lo Yazim. In other words, that even though the famine is 7 years, or the plague is 7 years, but if someone is destined to live, then they're going to live. If they're destined to die, they're going to die. So therefore, a plague might not necessarily take you out. And then therefore, maybe a woman would not assume anything if she says her husband died. She would say if he died in a plague, then it could be that she indeed saw him die. So therefore, it was Masupah. That's why it's machlekes when it comes to a plague. All right, we'll stop here. About it. Shkech, everybody. Tamam et Hashem, same time.